In the previous video, I installed the base of the superstructure, and now for this video, I won't be building up, but I'll build sideways. The reason for that has got to do with this funnel. The next portion of the superstructure that I have to install is this piece, and that's important because the mast goes through it. But if I install that piece first, I won't be able to install the funnel because you have to lift it slightly to get the funnel to fit underneath it. So what I'm going to do is finish building this piece and the funnel, install all of this, and then continue building upwards. Looking at the Trumpeter instructions, there's not much to do. It's just simply installing these two pieces. And this additional piece jutting out of the funnel I won't install because it's being replaced by a piece from the Flyhawk kit. Looking at the detail upgrade kit instructions, for this piece I need to install the railing and 2 staircases. That will be quite simple. And then I have to do the work for this funnel. The internal structure is already in place. I need to fold and create that little walkway which replaces the piece in the Trumpeter kit. Install the ladders which have curves in them, which will be probably a bit more difficult. Install more of these little wire rings that are very delicate. Then once the photo-etch on that is done and painted and weathered, I can then place it on the kit and glue it in place at the same time as I install this piece. Once that's completed, I'll then be able to continue building up on the forward part of the superstructure. For this piece, the sprues that I require are A and B, and then for the funnel, I need sprue C. For these ladders, you see I have to bend them along these curved lines. That's going to be fairly challenging. And all of these parts need to be painted. And the rings, the top ring will be mostly light grey with a bit of dark grey, which I'll paint on afterwards. In fact, that's the case for it everywhere. So what I will do is spray them in light grey and then hand paint on the dark grey. This is going to be the most difficult of these parts to paint because all 3 colors are present on it. The struts that hold it up need to be painted in the dark grey camouflage color. The grating needs to be painted in the color of the deck, and the railing needs to be painted in the light grey color. So I'm going to start with this piece and then put a piece of masking over it and continue with the rest. I'll start by painting it in the color of the deck. Since I have this paint loaded, I'll also paint these other gratings. Next up is the dark grey. And now for the light grey color. Since I'm working with delicate photo-etch, I'm going to start with a fresh blade. Let's begin with this piece. So that would be A37 for a small piece, and then B20 for a larger piece. These pieces just have a very small fold, with the long section being the bit that curves out. Those two already, very easy. This piece isn't symmetrical, it's got this little step down on the top rail, so I'm going to have to be careful about which way I fold this. I can't just fold it and then flip it if it's in the wrong direction. I actually have to plan this out. It has that end over there, then it runs long, goes in. Now we have a softer corner. It's almost as if it's a rounded corner that they want. That's pretty close. That's close enough. It'll move a bit when I apply super glue, and I'll be able to position it, so I'm not worried about it being a little bit off at this stage while I'm positioning things. So this piece is going to sit this way. This is the most tricky bend on this piece of photo-etch because they haven't scored this railing. Which means you have to kind of estimate where you want that bend to be. And it's not a very square corner, it's got a slight curve to it. Now I'll glue this in place using extra thick super glue. I'll apply the extra thick super glue to this long central-ish kind of piece. Then I'll be able to pull this like that to get it into position. And this is some extra thin super glue. So what I'm going to do now is position this. It's unfortunate that that's a bit crooked, but not much I can do about that. It seems pretty well lined up to me. Just is what it is. Okay, that piece is well stuck. Now to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, those 2 pieces got stuck down quite nicely. Now for these little pieces, I'll start in the center. That concludes the installation for the railing on this piece. Now looking at this, it appears the ladder goes over the rings. So I'll install the rings first, except for that top ring, which is separate. So I'll start with this one here, which is C2. What I'm going to try and do is position the ring on that lower horizontal line and use that as a guide. The ring itself is a little bit smaller than the funnel, so this is something I'm just going to have to take slowly. Okay, it's in position. I'm just going to slowly walk it down. Okay, seems about right. So what I do is tack it in place now. It's the first one on. Then I need to do C1, which is this piece. Must now hope for a good fit. Tacked it down over there. I want to make sure that it sticks. I'm just going to accelerate that. Let's repeat that at the front of the funnel. First few here are in position. Now I need to apply the ring to the top of the funnel, which is C14. Okay, well, that went fairly well. Now I'm going to install C13 to see how it fits on the model, but I'll probably install the ladders before I install C13. So I think it should be folded this way up. It is inevitable that the paint gets a bit scratched on photo-etch while you work with it, but it's not really such a problem because you can easily dry brush it to get it back into a uniform color. And now this piece is supposed to sit here. That's good. The fit is perfect. There's a very small gap that I need to get the ladder through, so I guess I need to stick this on first. Well, while I'm at this, let's make the ladders. C20 and C18. C20, this one. This looks like it's going to be extremely difficult. This is a job for the photo-etch folding tool. So what I'm going to do is fold one side, get the ladder then bent to fit the curve, and then fold the other side. Got to think about this. See, I fold it like this. Then this piece needs to be curved in. But as soon as I've done that, I won't be able to fold this piece because it'll be in the way of the tool. Unless I stick it out the end and then fold it. So now I need to manually work this piece into the shape above. That seems pretty close. Okay, now to fold the other side. That was a rather tricky piece of photo-etch to bend. Not a lot of space to work on that one. And then the next piece, C18. I think I'll use the same procedure as last time. This piece having a smaller curve should be a bit easier to deal with. This platform fits in quite snugly over here, with the hole big enough to place the ladder through the center of it. I think the best way to do this is to glue the platform on first and then feed the ladder through so that it's in the correct position. If I don't do it that way, I might not get the ladder perfectly centered, which will then make it difficult for the platform to be centered. What I'm going to try and do is center this first, exactly like that. I think that's in the correct position. Apply the glue from underneath. I now need to feed the ladder through the hole. Fit is tight, so I'm going to just take this slowly. That looks pretty central and vertical. You can see glossy splotches where I attached the feet of the ladder to the funnel. But when I spray this with the gloss and then matte coat, those splotches will disappear and you'll barely be able to notice how this ladder is attached to the funnel. The last piece to install is this short ladder. The most important thing here is to make sure that it's straight. There you have it, one completed funnel. These parts are now ready for the gloss coat. While the camera was off, I was doing a test fit. And while I was doing that, I noticed that this piece was kind of sitting like this. It's more exaggerated, but it had a slight upward angle to it. And the reason for that was because this edge stuck out a bit too far and it was kicking back on this part. So what I did was I shaved off a little bit of this edge, which is concealed underneath that lip anyway, so that this piece can sit flat in this location. After correcting that piece, I then noticed that you can install the funnel without having to lift the piece in front of it. Another thing that I've been thinking about for a while is the color of this ladder. And what I've decided to do is paint it in the dark gray camouflage color below the platform and leave it in the light gray above the platform. That will make it consistent with other ladders which are already painted in the color of the camouflage. To do that color correction, I will just brush paint. That looks pretty good. On this piece I had to reposition the doors. They were placed too far away from the edge and were missing the walkway, and was going to be a problem when I installed the railing on the piece where this part connects. As it is, there isn't going to be a lot of space. So in the process of removing those doors and replacing them, I did damage the paint a bit, and I just used a brush to touch it up. So as you can see, there are some brush marks on it. Once I've applied the gloss coat though, you should see those marks disappear. I'll now wait a day for the gloss coat to dry, and then I'll apply the panel line. Now that the gloss coat has dried, the panel line can be applied. After drying for a few minutes, the panel line can be removed. I now need to wait a few hours for the turpentine to dry off, after which I can seal everything in with the matte coat. The panel line has sufficiently dried and it is now ready for the matte coat. This is Tamiya XF86. This is the part that I had to brush paint to touch up a bit after moving the door. As you can see, after the gloss coat, the panel line, removing the panel line, and then applying the matte coat, the brush marks have all but disappeared. You really have to inspect it quite closely to see any blemishes. These pieces are now ready to be installed. I'm gluing the pieces down with Tamiya extra thin plastic cement. I'll let this dry overnight, and in the morning it should be properly cured, after which I can install the last of the photo etch. Now to install the last little bit of photo etch. This will be the last thing that I do for this video. And then I need a little bit of thick super glue to install these railings. If there's a message for this video, I'd say that it is to have a plan, but be willing to adapt the plan as the reality of the build changes things. At the end of the previous video, I had intended to continue building up on the superstructure, but for this video I realized that I needed to build horizontally first. And now at the end of this video, I still don't think I'm going to continue building up. Instead, I'm going to install the structure to the aft of this funnel, and then install the railings on the first level deck. Once that's completed, I can then continue building up. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Cheers.